My name is Nathan Myrex.
And I'm Ashley Myrex.
And in June, we will be married 10 years.
We met at a concert in 2012 and pretty quickly bonded over live music and traveling and had a blast. We got engaged while on the road and we got married in 2014. We both knew that we wanted to be parents. We were older when we met and got married.
I was 37.
And I was 33. So we knew we needed to try to start having kids pretty quickly.
I don't remember making a goal to try. I just remember we went for a while with no safeties. and then I guess we finally decided maybe it should have happened already, so we'll try.
It had been about a year. According to the doctors, that's what they say. Give it about a year. And so that's what we did. And then that's when I decided to just talk to my regular doctor. He gave us a couple of things that we needed to be watching for, started a little bit of blood work, and just kind of put it out there that due to our age and the fact that we had been not preventing for just under a year at that point, that it was time to start considering options. We listened to a little bit of what the doctor told us to do, gave it a few more months, and then it was time for us to investigate a little bit deeper. March of 2017 is when we finally got in with a specialist. And then we moved on to the next step, which is an IUI, or intrauterine insemination. And over the years, we had several of those, but unfortunately, they didn't work for us. Each time there was going to be a new intervention, he would sort of begrudgingly agree to it because we knew we wanted a family. So all of that put together put us in a position of being able to transition to that next step, which is IVF. IVF stands for in vitro fertilization, and the basics of the process are the doctor goes in and removes the eggs from the woman, and then a man gives a sample, so they're able to use the sperm from the sample that he gives to fertilize the egg. And then you have to then do what's called an embryo transfer, where they insert the embryo into the woman's body, and then you wait between when you have an embryo transfer and you can take a pregnancy test to see if it worked. With fertility treatments, everything is timed, and so at certain times of day, you have to give yourself certain medications. And I had to give myself shots in interesting places and at interesting times. I had to give myself shots in the bathroom at my friend's house at her New Year's Eve party. One of the most fun ones, I was in the front seat of my car on the streets of Memphis, getting ready to go into a Bruno Mars concert.
Felt for her because I don't like needles, shots at all. She was having to not only take shots, if it wasn't shots, it was some sort of medicine, but I mean just something messing with her body. But if I felt for her the whole time.
At my best friend's wedding that I was in, she got married at a barn outside, so I snuck into the barn. So I had to lift my whole dress up because there was no restroom, there was no privacy anywhere. So I was lifting my dress up because you have to give it to yourself like in your abdomen. And then at Avondale, at Smashing Pumpkins concert, I did not want to give up my spot in the pit, so I gave myself a shot in the pit while Billy Corgan was singing to me. One of the times that I waited that was the most intense was when I was waiting for some medication, because with fertility treatments, everything is timed out. You have to take everything at a certain time in a certain way, and I was waiting for a shipment of my medication to arrive. It was delayed by a day. That's okay, I always give myself a window. I tracked it all day long. I waited. The last time that it was updated, it said that it would make it by 8 p.m. It did not make it by 8 p.m. So at 8:01, I started making phone calls and no one could tell me anything. They could tell me where it was. And I said, tell me who's in charge there. I will drive there right now and get it. By 10 p.m., I still had no good answer as to why it wasn't there, where it was, or how it could get to me. And I was absolutely furious. There was a man telling me, ma'am, I understand. Ma'am, I understand. He kept saying it over and over again. I eventually said, I don't think you do. I mean, it was the most stressful night of my life. In the end, it didn't make it. And I didn't know if that was gonna stop our entire cycle. I didn't know if it was gonna be all of that money down the drain. I didn't know what I was going to do. People think that it's easy to get pregnant, and it really is not. No woman's body is the same. And from cycle to cycle, a single woman's body is not the same. So that January of 2018 egg retrieval, we got 9 eggs that time. 5 of those eggs were mature. 2 of them fertilized. And then what they do is they watch them over the course of anywhere from 4 to 6 days. So we got 1 embryo from that first IVF cycle, and we had a frozen baby waiting for us. A lot of people believe that there are things that you can do to help after you do an embryo transfer. McDonald's French fries are a big thing to have it after the transfer, and I did that. Also, warm feet, and that comes from Chinese medicine, that warm feet are tied to your warm core, and the warmer that your uterus is, the more hospitable it is. And I always had my positive baby juju bag that I took with me with lots of different good luck charms. A lot of times my mom would send me pictures of her holding similar things during my transfers, prayer beads, and my dad gave me a bookmark that has some verses on it that we prayed over my body for fertility, and they were with me every step of the way. In the end, that one didn't take. I was in the rocking chair, hoping that I was getting the call that we were pregnant while in the nursery. And we found out that it was a negative test. And I was heartbroken and sort of froze. And he was furious. He got up and walked out. I thought he was going to punch the wall. He came back in and said that he wished he had a bat to take to a tree in the backyard.
You're going to the doctor. And then she's getting shots. She's getting medicine. They're telling you, even before that negative, it was not responding to this, or you got problems here, or you do that. You know, just nothing but worries for a while. And you finally get there, and then it's like, oh, it didn't work. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense, you know?
I did what I was supposed to do. You did what you were supposed to do. The doctors did what they were supposed to do. And A plus B did not equal C. So we were back at square one. We couldn't jump right back into IVF. We didn't have the money to be able to do that. So we agreed to get on the waiting list for embryo adoption, or what's called snowflake adoption. Embryo adoption is very expensive, but not quite as much so as IVF was going to be. We got on the list.
Just in case, because there's a waiting list. And so we got on the list. So we were having a final conversation with the doctor, and she said, y'all are next on the list. So got there quick.
I much quicker than we anticipated. We were shocked to be at the top of the list, and she said, are you ready to look at that? Is that something that y'all are ready for? For him, biology was really important. Biological children of his own was really important to him. And he sat back and looked at me and he said, let's just try one last time to see if we can do it. I want to see if we can do it. So we went through IVF a second time and got our very first positive pregnancy test September 12th, 2019, sitting right here.
I remember that.
Yes. He was on the other side of me and we were holding hands, and that one wasn't a voicemail. That one was a message in my portal.
Well, you're happy, you're still overwhelmed, just as if the wife walked in the room and said, I'm pregnant. And then you still are anxious and nervous because something can still go wrong, you think. Maybe 6 weeks down the road, she miscarriages or loses the baby, so you're happy, but you're still worried.
For me, it was unbelievable. It was the first positive pregnancy test that I'd ever had. It was overwhelming and incredible. I was both frozen and so energetic at the same time. I wanted to remember that moment forever, and I took a screenshot. But I woke up about 5 or 6 times during the night that night, and every time I woke up thinking that it was a dream. And so it was bittersweet. It was incredibly emotional. So I would grab my phone and I would pull up my pictures and I would look at it and I would read it and I would become elated and overwhelmed all over again. And so it's that terror of it's not real, coupled with the elation of, wait, it is, it finally happened, was just overwhelming. We couldn't wait to tell family. I had a plan for telling the grandparents, and one of my favorite children's authors has a book called Waiting Is Not Easy. I wrote a note in the top with the date of September 12th. That's how we told the grandparents. We didn't know COVID was gonna hit right there at the end of my pregnancy, and having a baby in COVID is very different. He told me when we were dating that he was gonna be a cigar in the waiting room, Dad, and he was not gonna be in there with me. And then we found out that nobody could be in there with me.
Only one.
And then one person could, but that person couldn't leave.
Kept working and pleading, and at the last week or two, they allowed the doula to come as well, and I had help.
In other words, he got to stay up by my head. I started in with contractions around between 8 and 10. Finally woke him up about 3:30. My water broke on the way in the car. It was very exciting.
I mean, it really got tough there at the last 30 minutes to an hour, and finally said, like, I can't do this. I'm thinking, well, it's too late now, and yeah, you can, It seemed like we were at the hospital for 10 hours.
We were there about 4 hours.
Yeah. As soon as he's born, like, actually the doctors got him, I just overwhelmed and started crying.
My favorite picture from the birth. The most incredible moment of my life. Pure joy.
So then we went and did a third round of IVF. The first time it drug on and on and on and on. This time I wasn't ready.
They turned it around in less than 8 weeks. I was ready for my transfer, and
I almost felt like I agreed to this, thinking, well, it's going to be another year or two.
It went so fast for our third, and it was kind of mind blowing. Like, every time I thought I'd be able to like sit back and take a breath before the next step, they were calling with more good news. On the one hand, I was overwhelmed with it, with anticipation and excitement, but then there was also this, I couldn't even relax and enjoy any of the positives because I was almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, this has never happened before. This is too good to be true. We ended up going through the egg retrieval. 5 of them were follicles with eggs in them. All 5 were mature. 4 of them fertilized. 2 of them made it beyond a couple of days. 1 was super strong and looked great the whole time, and 1 they watched for a while until it stopped developing. So we had our 1. So we had less than a 7% chance of making it to a live birth. So that was sort of a hit. At this point, we were out of money. We had no savings left, credit cards maxed out. This was it. No more shots. Final. We prayed so hard over that one. Grafton was the sweetest, doing upwards to 6 and 8 shots a day. You can't hide that from a 2-year-old. We talked about wanting it to stick, and so he named the baby Sticky Baby. So we prayed over Sticky Baby, and then we got our positive, less than 7% chance. Of course, Valentine's Day was the day that she decided to make her very quick and exciting entrance into the world. We get to the hospital between 2:30 and 2:40. We check in around 2:40. Doula gets there at 2:42.
I think we're in the back room at 2:45, maybe?
No, maybe 2:50.
2:50.
Well, either way, doula gets there at 2:42. We get to that room about 2:50. They tried to get me up on the bed to do a check. Didn't make it. At 3 o'clock, they rushed my doctor in, and at 3:05, on the floor at the end of the bed, I pushed Lily out in 3 pushes.
That little girl wanted it in the world. Actually went in the hospital, and 15 minutes later, Lily's here.
On the floor.
Yeah. I didn't cry. I don't believe I cried this time. Maybe I did. Also, it was great that it only lasted for 20 minutes for what seemed to be 20 hours last time. It was great. So now we have 2 kids, and the boy's 3.5, pushing our limits, and the girl, it turns a year in a few weeks, and she's sweet as can be. Is it worth the wait? Yes. Probably better for the kids. I don't know. We would have grown kids if we started in our 20s, but we're more financially stable. I can deal with less sleep than I would when I was in my 20s, but I'm very old and impatient now.
It was worth every moment, every hard phone call, every shot, everything. Everything was worth it. And I'd do it again and again. God knew what he was doing making me wait, because I'd have like 10. If I didn't have to pay to get them here and I was young enough to be able to do it, I'd have 10 kids. Would you have 10 kids with me?
No.